So my name is Jay Culkin. I'm the Youth Workforce Development Coordinator at Families Together. Today's webinar is titled Self-Care as a Youth Peer Advocate, and it's hosted by Families Together in New York State and CTEC, and it's going to be presented by Trey Tape, who is the Youth and Young Adult Coordinator at On Care Healthy Transitions with CCSI. Sorry. So we are very excited to have Trey speak about self-care as a youth peer advocate. Thanks for joining us, and I am going to pass it over to Trey now to get started.
Thank you, Jay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today, we're talking about self-care, specifically through the lens of a youth peer advocate, because in this work, we give a lot to ourselves and we don't take care of our own well-being, and it becomes hard to support others effectively. Before we jump in, we're going to look at what we're going to cover today. Next. We're going to start with a quick check-in, go over some self-care basics, talk about stress and burnout, look at some practical strategies, leave space for discussion and questions. My goal is for this to feel interactive and useful and, not just like a boring lecture. Honestly, nobody taught me early in peer work, and I had to learn by experiencing burnout, how important this topic is. And by the end of today, you should walk away knowing why self-care matters in our role, and how to recognize burnouts and practical ways to protect yourself and protect your well-being while doing peer support work. And before we go any further, we're going to start with doing some grounding. Next. So in the chat, drop a number 1 through 9 that kind of describes your mood with these cute pups. Myself, I would say that I'm feeling kind of a 7 because I'm a little bit hungry and I see 5, 6. I agree. I agree. 2. So that's just, to loosen things up, see where everybody's energy is, and, see how everybody else coming into the space. I'll give you guys a second. 3, that's a good one. Okay, here we go on. So now we're going to do an icebreaker to loosen some things up. I call this 2 truths and a self-care habit. And if everybody can share 2 fun facts about yourself and one thing you do to, take care of yourself. This helps us connect and, while we're thinking about wellness. One habit that I'm trying to keep is I'm trying to put my phone down around bedtime. And that's kind of hard because I love like doom scrolling on social media. And 2 fun facts about me is I was in a movie as an extra. And I was playing chess. I still play chess to this day. And I'd say I'm fairly good. Oh, I go small business. That's cool. Would anybody like to share?
I'll go if no one else is.
Thank you.
Um, 2 truths. Let's see. Ooh, that's a hard one, honestly. I have a big family. I have 4 kids. So,
Mm.
um, let's trying to think of another good fun fact. However, I do like to read before bed instead of doom scrolling lately.
Mm.
So
I might
that's
have to
been
try
helping sleep a lot.
that.
I also started crocheting hats for babies in the NICU.
Hmm, that's awesome. Chat in the chat, people have a lot of great self-care habits, and I love to see the fun facts. That's awesome. That's awesome. Any others?
I have something. Um, oh, my name is Chartiana. I'm a peer specialist at WJCS, and youth peer advocate. But two
Yeah.
facts would be, I'm in college for human services. I'm a mom of two. And something that I started doing was like, if I don't have the energy to talk to people, I just won't talk to people. Like, I used to feel like I had to speak to people or I had to respond all the time. So I started like setting that boundary, and that's like self-care for me.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Thanks for sharing, Sharky. Hmm, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'll give you guys a minute to wrap up what you're saying. All right. Next. Why self-care matters in peer support. As a youth peer advocate, we show up emotionally for others. And self-care keeps us grounded and effective. And the youth that we work with, they notice how we manage stress, how we set boundaries, how we manage our emotions. Not only are they watching, but they tend to model it too. When we model healthy habits, they're more likely to practice them as well. You know, and it's going on. There's going to be a few words that we define that are super important in self care, especially as an advocate. Um, but like I said, self care helps us stay grounded, helps us stay present. And if we are gonna model these behaviors, youth are way more likely to follow. Next. So, like I said, we're gonna go over a few vocab things. Oh, I'm sorry, Jay, can you go back? We're gonna go over a few vocab. I'm sure you guys just seen the definition, but if anybody want to tell me their definition of self care, there's no right or wrong.
I'll go.
Yeah,
Hi, my name is Mariama. I think self-care is taking care of yourself. Um, like I'm a mental health counselor student, so I'm doing my master's. So I'm gonna give an example like before we as a counselor, I'm gonna need help taking care of myself too first before I go do counseling to another person. So I think it's the uh we have to take care of our own self first before we go and help other people.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. That's a great answer. Anybody else like to share?
I would say, well, my name is Ayana, and I would say it's to do things to like uplift you physically, mentally, and spiritually.
That's a great answer. Perfect answer. Thank you. Self care is practicing whatever allows you someone to feel grounded and re-energized enough to assist. Others put your own oxygen mask on first. I love that, Emma. I love that. It's a great one. Okay, next. Just like everybody said, intentional practice to maintain physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And I love what you said, Ayana, as well, including spiritual as well, because there's many, many dimensions of self-care. It's not necessarily just physical, emotional, and mental. We're gonna see that later on. Next vocab word is burnout. Would anybody want to share what they think that means? Has anybody ever experienced burnout? Being overworked, overwhelmed, having no gas left in the tank,
Physically drained.
physically, physically draining. That's a great one. Being tired, overwhelmed, drained, vicarious trauma. Awesome. 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 Okay, next. Burnout is emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion from prolonged stress. Good job, everybody. The next vocab word is emotional exhaustion. And I'm sure you guys know because we just kind of went over it. Any guesses? Yes, mentally drained. No more spoon. I agree. I agree. Okay, so emotional exhaustion is feeling overextended and depleted, literally having nothing left in the tank. Right. Thank you, Kirsten. And our next word is compassion fatigue. Oh, this is a good one. What do you think compassion fatigue may mean?
Could it be that you give so much of yourself where you're constantly maybe emotionally exhausted and you can't give any more of yourself? Like you can no longer see to, what's another word for compassion? You can no longer exert yourself emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was almost a textbook definition, when you have nothing, no more empathy, nothing left to give to anybody, that's compassion fatigue. Forgetting to have compassion for myself. Remember to put that oxygen mask on first. Can't help anybody else until you help yourself, right? You ain't unable to be as compassionate, usually because of burnout. Oh, nice, Caitlin. So, like I said, next, the reduced ability to feel empathy to repeated exposure to others' suffering. So when it's just too much, and this is good because we learn how to set boundaries. Next. This is why boundaries is important. Boundaries is important. First off, what are boundaries?
I think these are parameters that one should set. And in that way, you also protect yourself from being burned out. And you set those limits so that people know what you're able to offer and when you're able to offer. That's support.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Anybody else want to share? Exit barrier. I like that. Limits.
needing personal space.
Yep, absolutely. Bug Zephyr. Awesome. Verbalizing your comfortability and uncomfortability, personal limits. Be willing to voice what you need and tell someone how they can respect you. Absolutely, Emma. It's a great one. That's awesome. Everybody hit the nail on the head. Next, boundaries are guidelines to protect your well-being. Good job, everybody. So now we're going to get into a breakout room. In small groups, we're going to discuss one self-care habit that we want to start and what could get in the way. And sometimes just saying the barriers out loud could help us figure out solutions. All right, everybody. I'm going. I'm gonna go through group by group, asking one person to share what's one self-care habit they wanted to start or continue. I mean, we'll pick back up on, what barriers do you face maintaining self-care? So, with the people, somebody in group one, would you guys mind to share what you guys went over?
Okay, I guess I'll share. I apologize, my voice is a little rusty because I'm sick. So do I share mine or do I have to share for the whole group?
Yours is fine. Or something you guys went over in the group.
Okay.
Your
Um,
preference.
so mine that I shared was that I would like to set like clear boundaries between work and my personal time. And just take a couple minutes after work to decompress, and just have regular check-ins with myself, because I do work with a lot of youth who have significant trauma, and I need to make sure that I'm okay so that I can help them get okay and just continue to be better. Um, some barriers that I face in maintaining my self care is again just the difficulty of just keeping that separation, like keeping work at work, and then when I'm home, like not thinking about my youths and stuff like that. So that's one of my barriers. And also in my group, some people spoke about, um, sorry, like walking as a self care habit. Um, sorry. And I forgot the other ones. I'm sorry. But
Okay.
I know one of my group members mentioned that she had a walker, and since it's cold outside, she uses it at home and she kind of like uses that to also decompress. And if anyone else from my group wants to chime in, I'm sorry.
No, it's
You're
fine. Thank you.
doing a
Thank you for
great
sharing.
job.
You did great.
You
Thank you.
did great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for
We
sharing.
also identified that our jobs sometimes can be pretty sedentary, and we don't, finding ways to, get exercise into the daytime, like just getting up every hour or, not just sitting here all days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, those are some pretty common ones too. Like not taking work home with you. That's a big struggle, that a lot of people face.
All right, and we can also move on to group two.
The barriers that kind of was common between all three of us was prioritizing ourselves. That was in each of what we talked about. What we would like to do, some of the things that held us back was that ability to prioritize ourselves when there's so many other things going on. I know for me personally, I was talking about I'm New York City based, and I used to be a pretty avid walker and walking around everywhere. And of recent, it's kind of turned into, directly to work and directly home, and would like to get back to some more physical movement.
Mhm. More like taking care of yourself. Yeah. That's a good one.
We can also move on to group 4. I think you had put in the chat. I have a list, just joined a Buddhist temple, got rid of social media. However, I haven't been able to actually make it in. I'm still spending 6 hours on my phone watching Senate Congress hearings, barriers, getting caught up doing daily stuff and forgetting about myself.
That's definitely common too. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. I also get really impacted by the kids I work with. So just feeling an enormous amount of sadness sometimes. I guess it's self-regulation. It's hard for me to detach from the problems the kids have or the barriers they're facing. And that I guess I don't know if it's apathy, but sometimes it just feels like it's too much. Or like especially the way the world is right now, like it's not gonna change, just that self-doubt. Am I really making a difference? What does it matter anyway? So a lot of that self-talk, I guess I would say. And other people in my group mentioned shopping, reading, walking, manicures, things like that. But someone else can chime in from my group.
Yeah, I think that's great. One barrier we also talked about, and I think one for myself, is just wanting to maybe get out of my comfort zone and go somewhere else besides just work and my house. But the barrier is, I guess, that same exact thing of like getting in your car and going somewhere and meeting new people after you've just been talking with people and yeah, feeling that sadness all day. It can be hard to want to go and socialize, but I find it's really good for myself then not to isolate. So it's like a positive and a negative, I suppose.
I agree because when you neglect to do those things, it leads to compassion fatigue, emotional burnout, just being over empathetic.
Yeah.
And I know we have 5 more groups, so if anyone wants to unmute, in particular and share something about themselves or something that was something that was interesting that was discussed during the breakout rooms, please feel free to do that or type it in the chat as well.
Yes, please feel free to hop in. I welcome everybody's voice.
I had to step away real quick, but I wanted to share that, when I leave work, I still go home to a child who suffers from mental health issues. So, like, my barrier is that I don't really get a break much. So, I'm always constantly working. So, I think that I struggle with being a mom that has a child with special needs and then being an advocate for families that have, issues. So that's just what I'm trying to focus on. And my self-care habit that I do have is I paint. So I want to start getting outside and painting opposed to just being in the house.
That's awesome. And situations like that are a bit difficult because it's like you're almost always on the clock, right? And I know that's pretty troubling. And that's why it's so important that the little things, the little self-care things, those things add up. Self-care doesn't have to be a vacation, but just taking 5 minutes to listen to music or journal or even give yourself positive self-talk, like those things add up over time. Oh, I see in the chat, Skylina, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Self-care habit I have been working on is taking care of my health and making the proper appointments. And the barriers are working crazy schedules at work. I get it. I get it. And again, those little things, taking time out, actually being intentional to set time to do those things, um, definitely will help out. Charity says, my barrier is that I feel bad for putting myself first. If that makes sense. Yes, absolutely. I get that. I get that. And working in the field that we do, sometimes it may feel like you're being selfish by putting yourself first, but understand that, you're exerting yourself in all other aspects, so it's only fair that you give back to yourself.
Yeah.
Will anybody else like to share? Okay, thank you everyone for sharing. Please continue to share as we move on to the next topic. Stress versus burnout. Stress happens short term, right? But burnout happens when stress continues without recovery, without a break. And a major warning sign is feeling disconnected and numb about work that once mattered to you. So feeling, if it's an unusual feeling that you don't really care, or you feel like you can't give the same output, same energy, and it's not that you don't care anymore, it's that you're burnt out, you exhausted, and it's not really much to get, right? Stress is Monday. For me, stress is Mondays. Who likes a Monday, right? But burnout is feeling like every day of the week is a Monday. You know, that's how we start to realize and we start to recognize that we're feeling burnt out. If every day is feeling like a Monday, you know? Next. Burnout shows up as constant fatigue. It could be irritability. It could be low motivation or just overworking instead of resting. And these things, they slowly creep up on us. Um, And I noticed. I also I worked in prior to this with at-risk youth. I would say they've been through a lot of mental, a lot of trauma, a lot of mental health. And I found myself, you know, giving more than what I could. And this led to me being burnt out. This led to me being irritable, and just not feeling like myself, around kids. And I know that's not who I am. So that was one of my signals that I need a break. Has there been a time where anybody ever experienced something like this? Can you relate? Um, Feel free to share. All right, we're gonna move on. If you want to join the conversation, feel free to add that in the chat. Caring for others, they impact us not only physically but emotionally, behaviorally. Things like sleep problems, withdrawal, low motivation, like I was saying, or unhealthy coping, can all be signs that we need support. And this isn't rare, physical being, chronic fatigue, low energy, headaches, muscle or back pain, sleep disruptions, frequent illnesses, or even appetite and weight changes. And, just imagine how that can play into your emotional health, your mental health. Even with emotional, feeling overwhelmed, anxiety, sadness, emotional detachment, going transition in behavioral, social work withdrawal. You don't want to go outside. You don't want to hang out with your friends. Low motivation, low productivity, and unhealthy coping behaviors like, doing drugs or, drinking alcohol, those sort of negative things, to try to cope with your life at the moment. Next. And this is a not so fun statistic, but just about every 1 in 3 people that work in peer support experience, emotional exhaustion regularly. So if you felt drained, you're not alone, and if you felt like this, it's just part of being human. And like I said, feeling drained doesn't mean that you're weak or that you're bad at this work. It just means that you care. So how do we change the way we look at self-care? Self-care isn't selfish. It isn't a reward that happens after burnout. It's maintenance. Just like a car, you do these things to keep the maintenance up so you don't burn out, right? So your engine doesn't blow, right? Some things we do constantly so burnout doesn't happen in the first place. Self-care isn't just a spa day, it isn't a vacation, it isn't going out of town. Although I wouldn't complain, it's more of like everything things that you do to kind of keep your self-care going, keep from burning out. Next. Like I was saying, earlier, there's multiple aspects of self-care. There's physical, there's emotional, mental, social, spiritual, financial, occupational, and environmental, right? And excuse me, going through these things, physical is, taking care of your body so it can take care of you essentially. That's getting enough sleep, that's exercising, even going to the doctor or taking a walk. Those are all things part of your physical self-care that you can do. And it's really like, what does your body need? Is it rest? Is it movement? Or is it fuel? Like eating. Emotional being managing, and expressing your feelings in a healthy way, right? That's journaling, therapy, taking space when you need, or when you're feeling overwhelmed, and that's like, how do you know when your emotions are building up, when they're too much, right? Mental is, taking care of your thoughts, your cognitive health. That's reading, that's learning something new, that's, limiting negative self-talk, or even doing puzzles, something that's kind of like stimulating, get your brain juices going, right? Social, social is maintaining healthy connections, healthy relationships, that's asking for help, that's spending time with friends, spending time with supportive people in your life, that's joining social groups, doing extracurricular things. And that's like it's like what fills your cup, and what drains you. And these things are important to identify so we can take care of those things or we can, attack them. Spiritual, and spiritual doesn't necessarily mean like godly. I'm sorry, I don't know anybody's religion, but it doesn't necessarily mean religion. It's more so connecting meaning to purpose, or something bigger than yourself, connecting your life to something bigger than you, and that could be community, that could be prayer, meditation, it could be nature walks, it could be, practicing gratitude and what you're grateful for, or even just volunteering. And that's like I said, like what gives your life meaning. Um, and then financial self-care. That's a big thing. It's a big thing for me too, especially nowadays with the economy and how everything is going. Not everything's super expensive. Eggs is $10, right? It's crazy. And that's like managing money in ways that like reduce stress, and increase stability. So you're not stressing about bills, and that's just another thing off of your plate, right? Budgeting, saving, avoiding impulse spending, and even learning about credit. Those are all things that take care of your financial health, right? What money habits cause you the most stress? Occupational, being, in the job place or even school, It's finding that balance, that yin and yang, right? Setting boundaries at work, taking breaks, you know, not overloading your schedule, maybe a mental health day. Those are all things that's okay, right? Does work or school drain you, help you grow, or does it even do both? And lastly, environmental, excuse me, environmental self-care, and that's creating a space that supports your well-being, right? Either cleaning your room, cleaning your house, organizing your workspace, reducing clutter, or even like deleting apps on your phone because your phone is too cluttered. Like those are all things that take care of your environmental, your space around you, right? Clear, I know you heard, a clear workspace, a clear headspace, right? And what does your space say about your stress level, right? I know I start to feel stressed when there's a bunch of things on my desk, when I can't find certain things, I just can't organize. I need my physical space to be organized so mentally I can plan ahead, right? So now we're going to get to another breakout room. And I want you to think about what drains you, what recharges you, what you can't control, and what you may need support for. All right, guys, welcome back. Let's share some things that stood out or surprised you. Is there any patterns? Can somebody give me something that drains them?
But just rushing and being unorganized.
Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I was just saying that I put for me, what drains me is rushing and being unorganized because I feel like that kind of throws off everything I have going on and I'm not like moving smoothly. But some of the patterns I noticed is that everybody likes to recharge with family and friends. That's what I noticed. Everyone wants to be social and have their support system there.
Right. Recharge that social battery. Thank you. What can you control? What can I control as far as recharging or learning what's draining? What's in your guys' control?
First thing I said is nothing except myself. Like if I can let go of I'm one of a team, so it's not just up to me to do it, then I can let go and, not overdo.
I agree. Even understanding that not everything is in your control can help take some of that stresses or that pressure off you thinking that you have to do more than, you know. Preparation, that's also a good one. Definitely can show preparation. And what can you ask support for? Like things that's out of your control. What can you support? Or what can you ask for support? So maybe that's like, if work is draining me, maybe, talking to my supervisor about organization, how to better organize or how to manage this caseload or, those sort of things, those are things that people I can ask for support. Those are resources, just knowing those things helps out a lot. Okay, next. Self-care, once again, it does not have to be big, right? These are everyday things that we can do, everyday tools, breathing resets, movement, journaling, music breaks during the day. Like I said, those little things can help you reset quickly. Something I use every day if I need a reset is listening to music. That's really big for me. Just playing something that kind of matches my mood. It helps me stay stimulated, it helps me stay engaged, or sometimes it's just that mental break that I need. and I like to use like over-the-ear headphones. Do anybody have anything else they want to share? Anything that they like to do for a everyday reset, something small, something practical? It could be just taking a walk. It could be closing your computer for a few minutes, going to get lunch.
There's something I want to share. In our breakout group, I mentioned briefly that I go to the movies very often, and because I work remotely from home, I bought the A-list where you could watch like 4 movies per week. So I tend to pick a time during the day where I'm like, oh, the theater is not going to be that full. So me just watching this movie on this big screen, it kind of brings me down a bit. Might sound strange, but it's just something that kind of brings me back to earth my alone time. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I wish we had that here. I also seen somebody say coffee break. That's one of my favorites, to be honest. Fresh air debriefing, walking. Those are all good ones. All good ones. Okay, next. Feel free to keep adding them too as we go on. Boundaries. Boundaries help us protect our ability to keep showing up. Being clear about them prevents burnout, prevents resentment, and I know sometimes that's troubling to people because they don't know what to say. So even having a script is ready to help in tough moments. Like for example, if somebody's asking me if my schedule is full, and it's hard for me to say no sometimes, and somebody asks me to do something, I tell them, I'll get back to you on that. Or, just give me a second. Because, I learned in myself that I have a problem saying yes too much. And then I get overwhelmed because I have too much on my plate. So sometimes it's just telling them that I need a second to decide helps me out a lot. Boundaries are care. And, setting boundaries isn't always pushing people away, but it's more so taking care of yourself, so you keep showing up. Being clear is kind. Being honest and clear helps everyone know what to expect, right? There's nothing worse than unexpected, right? It's very unsettling for people. It prevents hurt feelings, confusion, and even resentment. And like I said, scripts can help, and just having a few go-to phrases, makes things completely easier. Next. Okay, so we're gonna do this together. This is a grounding exercise that everybody can do everywhere. Um, and I'm sure you guys may have seen it before. It's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise, and it's 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. And this technique helps calm the nervous system and bring us back to the present moment. It's grounding us. Okay, so I'm gonna give us a few minutes to practice this, and then I'm gonna check in and see how it went for everybody. All right. Hopefully that went well for everybody. And like I said, this is a technique that you can use anywhere. And I highly recommend it for grounding, for when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling like stress, or even, burnout and those sort of things. These things are good to help you come back to the present, be back in the moment. Next. So this is our final breakout room. But we're gonna go over a 24-hour recharge plan. And this is something that you can use as a planner, to reference, things that you can do throughout the day to maintain your self-care. Right? In the morning, these are examples, setting the tone. When you wake up, drinking water within 30 minutes of waking up. Right? It helps your body, it helps your mind, helps you think. Even 5 minutes of exercise, stretching, or even doing that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique in the morning, right? Those are good things to help you start your day. Midday, maintaining energy, eating something nourishing, even if it's small, right? Stepping away from the screen for 5 or 10 minutes because you don't want to look at a screen all day, and just giving your body that time to reset. Then after work, having a almost ritual, routine, from leaving to work to coming home. That way you can practice leaving work at work, right? And enjoying your home space. Moving your body, mentally clocking out from peer work. It's important. In the evening, doing something enjoyable. This is, like I said, those small things that you can do. And they add up, right? Doing something calming, doing something enjoyable, and not talking about work. Limit work talk or heavy content. Leave it in the office or in the field. And at night, reducing screen time, reflecting on something you did well, showing that gratitude, right? And aiming for consistent sleep. And these are all things that your body needs to be recharged for the next day. Okay. And now we're going to look into building a simple, 24-hour recharge plan. Once again, these are small habits throughout the day that support energy and balance, right? And each day has a intention, right? Morning intentions, midday breaks, after work transitions, okay? And once again, the small changes do add up. All right, so we're gonna break out in the groups, and each group is gonna have a part of the day to come up with some ideas, some plans, something they can do that helps them be ready for that moment, right? So there's gonna be a morning, a midday, after work, evening, and night that you guys are gonna work on. And then after the breakout room, we're gonna come back and we're gonna share those things so we can build our daily plan together. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm super excited to see what everybody got for their daily plan. My morning group, what do you guys have? Would anybody like to share? Can you please share?
Yeah, one thing we talked about was just setting an alarm early enough to be able to fit in the things that you want to do, and also placing like whatever your alarm is, like if it's a clock or if it's your phone, far enough away to where a snooze button or just turning it off is not accessible. Um, and so we talked about that. And then, like, when you do have that time, doing things like spiritual practices or drinking coffee, listening to music. Sometimes it's just staring blankly at a wall, just whatever you need to kind of unlock the energy you need for the rest of the day. And then also leaving home at home as much as possible and then just focusing on work. And then when you get home, then you're back on home and not at work. So just kind of putting in those mindsets as you prepare to just walk out the door and go wherever you need to go.
That's awesome. Thank you. Emma, let me ask you this. Are there any barriers to any of those routines that you give?
Yeah, morning appointments, ones that are super early, and so that the barrier would be just that extra discipline to go to bed the night before and really get up at your alarm. Sometimes, for more crisis situations, you get a call and you're like, all right, I'm out, and I wasn't planning on it. So, um, yeah, I would say those are probably the biggest barriers.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Set up alarms, spiritual practices, those are all great options. Midday, maintaining energy.
In the morning. I mean, I make that time, even if I have to wake earlier, because I need to pray in the morning, and it just no matter what, how I get up or how I feel, whatever, it's gonna, even if it's snowing like this morning, it's so bad weather out there, but I just said my prayers and I left home and I'm fine. So that's my basic thing, is just to at least spend 5 minutes of my time before I walk out of that house and say my prayers. Spend time with God. I find that time with God, 5 minutes every morning, really helps me a lot, because I ask him to just come with me, stay with me. And he stays. I mean, that's my belief. Although he might not be there, but I ask him, and I feel he listens to me and he stays with me. That's my morning thing.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then do you see any barriers, or are there any barriers where, like, situations where you find yourself not having time to do that?
Well, as I said, I set my alarm away from my bed. I have to get up and walk and go to take my alarm off. So that makes me up. So there's nothing about snoozing in my life. And so once I'm up, I it means I have everything planned, that I will get it done in that time. So I'm not a late sleeper, or I snoozed away or I fell asleep back. No, I have a plan. I'll be up tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock to get everything done in a very easy pace, not rushing. So I come to work and I'm very calm, and like nothing, because I did not run to catch a train.
Okay. So that alarm helps you too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
that's awesome.
My
Awesome.
schedule, I make sure I don't put pressure to have a schedule, but I think the most important thing is to wake 15 minutes earlier. That's all it takes.
That's awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Earlier. That's all it takes. So that you get everything done. Very nice, very slow. You get everything accomplished, and you walk out of the house. I leave my stuff, my baggage by the door. I don't bring it to work. And I enjoy my 8 hours at work, not worrying what happened at home.
Okay.
I don't bring home to work. So I enjoy 8 hours of freedom from home. And when I go back home, maybe some of the issues resolve by itself, that I left home by the door.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Midday, lunchtime area. What do we have for that?
For me, midday, to be honest, I don't eat lunch at this time. Um, I'm trying to do so, but I eat my lunch maybe like 3 p.m. when I work in after school, right? So I do it when the kids go in the classrooms, um, like 3, and when everything is quiet, that's when I try to eat. But I wanna try to reverse that and have my lunch the time I'm supposed to have it. Yeah.
Okay. So setting those intentions to eat earlier during the day.
Yes.
Okay. And it doesn't have to necessarily be eating, but is there anything that you do during the midday, during the middle of the day that
When I start work at 10, but so I have school assignments, so I come here early just to do my assignments. Sometimes when I feel like in my head you sat down for a long time, being on the screen. So I get up, I try to walk around, just to stretch, and then, sit back again because meetings coming up. It's a busy schedule for the day.
Yes, it definitely sounds like it. Okay. So doing your assignments earlier, walking around, stretching your legs, that's awesome. Two great things to do during the day. What about afterward? Does anybody want to share afterward? Any things, any plans?
Hi. So, our group, we collectively agreed that we take some time after work to just like sit with ourselves, either listen to music in the car, or I said like, um, I go to my room and I just make sure I lay down for like 30 minutes, and a couple people agreed. So we just all take 30 minutes to 2 hours. It doesn't even matter. We just take some time to ourselves after a long day.
Yeah, it's never nothing wrong with that. I'd do that too. Just taking some time to really just be with yourself. I think that's great. Are there any barriers? I forgot to ask midday as well. Are there any barriers to that where you might not be able to get that done?
In our group, most of us have kids too, so sometimes it's hard to do that when you have it's like coming off from work and then you have more work to do because, being a parent is another job. So,
Mhm. So I heard. Evening, the evening group. What do you guys have?
We kind of had the same thing as it says here, like do something calming, but we also had like get in bed at a decent time, have a nutritious dinner, maybe dim lighting, and work out.
Okay.
And a barrier we came up with is if you have to work in the evening, it might change the way you would do things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Having to work. Okay. Thank you. That's great. What's the night routine looking like? Any night routines? Maybe getting to bed early. Anybody have any suggestions?
We had taking extra time to relax before you actually have to go to sleep. We talked about having a good meal before going to sleep or trying like a tea, melatonin, listening to audiobooks or guided meditation, um, creating a peaceful atmosphere, and possibly aromatherapy.
Oh, it's nice. And are there any barriers where as you might not be able to like get those things done?
And myself and other people in our group say that they struggle with insomnia, so that's definitely a barrier. I know a few people in my group had kids as well, so maybe just kids' sleep schedule, worrying about kids. Me personally, I have a crazy schedule because I work in a 24-hour facility. I'm also in a master's program. So there's times where I leave work at midnight and have to come back in at 8 a.m. So sometimes it's not really possible for me to get the full amount of sleep.
Really?
So that's definitely a barrier.
That definitely is. Sounds like you got a lot on your plate. Okay. Thank you for everybody for sharing. So one of the most things I kind of want to reinforce is that this is more so a plan. It's not a resolution, right? So you don't think if you couldn't do something in the morning that the whole plan is out the window, right? This is tailored and catered to you. Okay. So if there's barriers that you can't eat something nourishing during midday, right? That doesn't mean your whole day is a waste. We just go on to the next thing, right? We take care of what we can't control. Okay. So don't get discouraged about your plan because it's your plan, right? You go, you complete whatever. If you just could do one thing that day for self-care, that's still a win. Okay. I've seen a lot of barriers being kids, school, um, or just having no structures. And it's important to know that you can still take care of yourself without doing, your entire plan. So just finding some way to be flexible, and rather that's 5 minutes of doing something you love, or that's squeezing in a quick power 10-15 minute nap. It's just important that you do things intentionally to take care of yourself. Okay, next. That was our 24-hour recharge plan. Okay. So just going forward, that's something that we can do. That's something that we can make to tailor our schedules. Tailor to our schedule. Sorry. Can somebody share one thing that they took away from today? One thing you might have learned, one thing you didn't know, or even one thing you already know.
I learned from everybody sharing, especially when you did the breakout rooms. Sometimes you feel like you're the only one going through something, but when everybody starts sharing, you learn from them and they learn from you too. So that's my takeaway for today. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, a big part of the breakout groups was so you guys can see, so everybody can see that you may not be the only one having these same sort of struggles or difficulties, right? Your peer or friends, they're probably dealing with the same thing. Okay. So putting two brains together to figure out one solution, is way easier than trying to do it yourself. Anybody else want to share?
Self-care is of paramount importance. I think it should be one of the main priorities, whether you're man, woman, whoever you are. Just self-care is such an important part of your lifestyle.
Yeah,
It's like it makes it even, emotionally, let me be honest, I feel good when I do self-care. All right. I just feel good. It makes me feel good. And anything I do, even if I meditate or if I go for a walk or just sit lie down on my sofa and just ignore the dishes in the sink. And this is my time. I feel so good about it because I'm paying attention to myself. Nobody will do it for me except me. And when I do it for myself, I feel so good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I love that, you guys are emphasizing on self-care. So it means that I'm not wrong about thinking like that. I'm like, sometimes I feel bad that, I'm paying, like, I should have done the dishes before I came and take this half an hour break. But then now I don't feel guilty anymore because other people need self-care. They see the importance of self-care.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got that takeaway. I see some people say how to intentionally take better care of themselves. Self-care is crucial so we can be more efficient, taking the time to fit in little amounts of self-care throughout the day. Yes. Great job. Great takeaway. What about one insight about your own self-care? What did you guys learn about yourselves? Oh, I learned about drawing boundaries. It's not always about caring for people. It could be about setting boundaries with tasks. Yes, Kirsten. Yes. Love that. Learn that it's okay to ask for help or support. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not doing enough self-care. Now we know the steps to take better self-care, right? That's awesome. Even that recognition is a big step. And now, one word that describes how you're leaving this space. Reassured, informed, enlightened, and aware. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. Yes. Really great adjectives, everybody. Seen. I'm loving everybody's responses. Be conscious. Awesome. Understood. Heard. Understood. Yes, yes. I love it. I believe this training is going to be recorded, Shireen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next, Jay. Does anybody have any questions for me? Thank you. And this is where you can reach out to me. Also, the Christ text line. Thank you, Families Together in New York State and CTAC. I also want to reiterate, if anybody is struggling, with self-checking and self-regulation, reflecting. If you're reflecting, it's really important that you check in with your support systems and get that support that you need.
All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. Thank you, Troy. Thanks for your time and attention today. As a reminder, today's recording and slides will be available on the CTEC website within the next 2 to 3 business days. Our coordinator will be sending a link in the chat box so you can complete our brief survey, which you will also receive in an email in case you're not able to complete it at this time. So on behalf of Families Together, CTAC, Trey, and myself, thanks for joining us today and have a great rest of your day.